Friends and enemies, welcome back to the Canadian Bitcoiners podcast. This is number 177. My name is Joey. That's Len in the basement, like usual. Len, I told you before the show, our friend Tom Karadza gifted me this Real Bedford shirt and the Bitcoin magazine that's behind me here. It's a little blurry thanks to my camera focus. But number one, what do you make of those things? And number two, how are you doing?
What can I say? I've mentioned many times my thoughts in this, so I'm just going to rehash the same old shit. But yeah, all is good, Joey. All is good. I enjoyed today. It was
Good.
a little chilly, but either way, I still had to got out and enjoyed it as much as possible. So yeah, how about you? Everything okay over there?
Strong day today. We neutered Moose last week, and he also had double dewies on both his back legs. So people who don't know, dogs have these secondary kind of, I guess even tertiary, maybe claws up on their back hind legs. And sometimes they're just not connected that well. His were not connected well at all. They're flopping around all over the place on windy days. And so he had two of them on each of his back legs. And so the doctor recommended a long time ago that when we neuter them, we get those cut off as well. So we did that, which means I got to be with him all the time. So right now actually is really the first time he's been on his own, no supervision for an extended period of time. My wife is at IKEA and he's probably just on the other side of this door, hopefully sleeping, but we will see when I get out if he's been licking his wounds there. That's all right though. He's been good for the most part since the operation.
Very good. Well, all the best to him, and hopefully he recovers quickly. But he's young. So. Typically, when you're that young, you
one year old. It's amazing how fast the wounds heal. I'll tell you that. I'm always amazed by how fast dogs heal from all kinds of stuff because they don't need
little kids. You can almost watch the wounds heal.
It's crazy.
It's incredible.
It's crazy. I've enjoyed it. So anyway, big show tonight. Let's do the sponsors, do some boost, housekeeping, all that stuff. The first sponsor, are they the presenting sponsor? Yes, EasyDNS. Mark, incredible man. Okay, just an incredible man, a true Renaissance man. He knows about domains, domain name servers, domain name services. What does DNS stand for? One of those two things.
Domain name server.
Domain name server. He'll help you start your own website if you want. Anon, okay. You can either buy it from him, port it over, whatever. Okay. But when you're ready, he'll be there with the most secure, the most efficient, and the highest quality product in the market when it comes to DNS. How do we know? We use our website. Our website is over on EasyDNS. We do all our stuff through his service. And for Bitcoiners, lots of great stuff. Virtual private server, Bitcoin nodes, Nostr relays, you name it. There's probably more. Mark will tell you. Just go over. CBP Media is the code. No matter what you're trying to start, you need a website. You can't do anything without a website anymore, okay? Whether you want to out companies that are using fraudulent LMIA claims or post videos that you go to jail for in the United Kingdom now, you need a website to do it, and EasyDNS will host that website for you. CBP Media is the code. Go there. And don't forget, actually, after the show tonight, Mark is in a space with other friend of the show, Joe Barbudo, the Economic Long Wave, the E Long Wave on Twitter. They're going to be talking, as Joe does every Monday night, about the state of affairs in the economy in Canada. And I'm sure Mark, who is there, I believe, is the Bitcoin capitalist tonight, will have some stuff to add. So I'm going to be in that space afterwards. Should be heat. And also, I'm going to have Joe and Mark at the studio sometime in September. Hopefully, I have to set that up. But that should be another good show. Those guys are, I mean, everyone knows Mark and Joe are some of the brightest guys in Bitcoin, adjacent to Bitcoin in Joe's case. Having them all in the same room, you really can't beat it in terms of content. So who's the second sponsor?
Bull Bitcoin, Joey. Bull Bitcoin. It's a great place to buy and sell your Bitcoin. I have no idea what the heck the price of Bitcoin is right now. So it may be a good time to buy. It may be a good time to sell. I don't know. But either way, they're there to give you the option to do either or, and you could do it on chain or Lightning. Now, I did check the fees yesterday. The fees were dirt cheap. So if you're going to be using on-chain, now's the time to make your buys, execute those buys, and also consolidate your transactions. But that's a topic for another time. But Bull Bitcoin gives you other options because, you have your Bitcoin. What are you going to do with it? You're just going to sit on it and just talk about it, think about it. No. You have options. You could spend it. You could buy some gift cards through Bull Bitcoin and start spending your Satoshis in the real world. So, Home Depot gift card or whatever. You could do that, and Bull Bitcoin will help facilitate the purchase. You just give them your Bitcoin, and they'll give you a gift card that you can start spending in the real world. But also, if you have some bills you got to pay, well, you could use your Bitcoin to pay those bills.
Don't pay them. See what happens. And if you do really have to pay them, Bull Bitcoin can help.
Yeah, if you don't, I don't recommend that. I would always
Do you know
recommend it.
someone
Again, this
told
is a
me
financial.
someone told me, Len, that they don't pay their parking tickets and nothing has happened to them. It's a listener of the show. I won't say
Okay.
who, but yeah.
Well, teach their own. I mean, not
Should
financial
we?
advice, but I
Is
would
this a
suggest,
strategy we should be exploring?
yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, we are trying to save for the CBP jet, but that's
True.
one way we're not going to be doing that. So, but yeah, definitely check out Bull Bitcoin, and it's a great way, like as I mentioned, to buy and sell your Bitcoin on chain, Lightning, and so forth. But open an account if you haven't done so with using our promo code. $21 is going to be added to your account. And I just want to say one last thing about Bull Bitcoin is that you get some great service from them. Not only that, this is non-custodial. So many times we talk about when you buy your Bitcoin and you leave it on exchange and then things could happen. They don't allow that with Bull Bitcoin. In order to facilitate a buy, you have to provide an address in which to send your Bitcoin. If you do not, well, you can't finalize the buy. So as soon as you buy it, it goes right to your wallet like that. Well, it'll take a few minutes depending on how long it's going to be batched. But either way, it's not for them to hold on to. It's going to be sent to your wallet right away. So check them out. We love them. We use them, and that's where I buy my Bitcoin.
Has Francis gone on TV and talked about how they're going to start a media company ever? Do you know anything about that?
No, this is first I've heard of it.
That's because he's never done it. Has Francis ever gone on TV and talked about how they're going to get into mining?
No, again, this is first I've heard of it.
That's because he's never done it. This is a company that is focused on the mission, okay? Unlike another company in the space. Third sponsor, Decentral Tech, Len. They announced today that they are, I can't remember the model of this bid axe that's coming out. I'm going to look it up right now. This thing looks so mean. And there's been some momentum on the ground, Len. There's been a grassroots movement, a CBP branded bid axe. Do people actually want that? Can we actually sell, or like, do we actually know enough people who watch and listen to this show that want a miner that we can produce 50 or 60 CBP branded bid axe machines?
It sounds like there may be a lot of interest for this, and
that's insane to me.
Yeah, if we could do that,
is insane to me. Yeah,
you know, that CBP style branded bid axe, that'd be so mint if we could get that.
It'd be unbelievable. So these guys are the sort of all-in-one solution to your home mining needs. Whether, like I said last week, I'm still working on this ad read, but I think I got it down here. Whether you want to mine in a way that your wife will not appreciate, whether you want to mine in a way that your wife will appreciate, whether you want to start something as a hobbyist or actually contribute to something at the level of a rack in your garage, these guys will help you. Whether you want to buy, get something repaired. They do hosting, although it's not their main shtick these days. No matter what it is when it comes to mining, these guys have you covered. And of course, as we just mentioned, the bid axe really is the star of the show. This incredible little unit that is near silent, looks sick, as do all the things in Bitcoin that we talk about on this show. Made X art, the bid axe. These things are one and the same. You put them next to each other, it's like a little Mr. Robot chic in your home. And it's just mining Bitcoin. Put whatever firmware you want on it, point it to whatever pool you want, help secure the network, and do it from
there's a new Bitcoin, the BitX Gamma came out just today.
That's the one. That's the one. Yep.
And it's 200 Canadian.
Yeah.
And it gives you 1.2 terahash per second, 15 joules
crazy
per terahash.
From a single chip. Chip.
And they're taking pre-orders for that right now. Check that out. And so that's the most efficient offering they have of the BitX.
Hell yeah.
And it's using the S21 chips.
That is the one that's going to be CBP branded, I understand. If there is interest. So
yeah, we are the most efficient.
We are the most efficient and effective podcast in the nation. Housekeeping. And then we'll go with the boost. Last week I did the Caradzas show, Your Life, Your Terms. Tom and I spoke for a little under 2 hours. I got to be honest, there was about a half-hour stretch during that show where I thought my heart was going to come out of my mouth. It was beating so fast because I downed a Monster energy drink on the way there and a coffee when I got to the place. And then we just started talking. And I suspect you will hear it in the content. So look forward to that when it comes out. We were just talking before the show. Mr. R. Gnome is going to join us tomorrow. We're either going to do the show a little later than usual, or I'm going to do it solo at 7, depending on what happens with football. Turns out in these beer leagues, if you don't field the team, you have to pay a fine, and I don't really want to pay a fine. So we will figure something out. Mr. Arnome could
Just
be
don't pay
listening.
the fine. We talked about it at the beginning of the show.
Parking
What are these
tickets
fines
and
are just-
football fines. No,
Yeah,
pay
fuck
nothing.
that.
Pay nothing. Absolutely. So yeah, we have that on deck for this week. What else do we have coming up? Do you want to talk about the calendar? We haven't really talked about the calendar in a while. What else we got on the agenda here next little while?
To be honest, I'm not sure.
I'll tell you right now.
I know we have Jonathan from Decentral Technologies coming in beginning of September.
Yeah, he's coming
And
on
I'm
the
trying to
4th.
fill in some other slots at the beginning of September. But between
The
now and then, I don't know.
27th of August looks maybe empty. I don't know. And then September 10th, the week after Jonathan, Mike Campbell coming back for his
Yes.
once or twice yearly CBP appearance, which I'm sure will be followed up by an appearance by me on Money Talks at some point in the fall. So looking forward to that. I think that's it. Do you want to do boosts and then hit the ground running here?
Yeah. So Zordon 313
What?
sats.
Zordon. Nice.
Zordon.
Great
Yeah.
callback. Do you know what that's from?
No. It sounds like it's from a 70s science fiction movie.
90s. You're
90s. What do
you're
you- I don't
close
even-
though. I'm pretty sure someone in the chat can tell me if I'm wrong. That is the guy from Power Rangers, is it not?
I didn't watch it. So
I
my
don't know.
sister watched it, but she was, she's much younger than I am.
Okay, so one more thing here before we do this boost from Zordon. Sorry. Boom Dust. The CBP fantasy draft is what we will be doing the week of the 27th. That's what we'll be doing. I will be streaming that. That's going to be sponsored content. The sponsors don't know that, but they know it now. Sponsored content. The CBP fantasy draft. There you go.
Yeah, so it's Zordon, and he boosts 313 stats for the CBC jet fund. I think he meant CBP. Because CBC, I'm not sure if they need a jet, if they have a jet, but man, let's get one for the CBP, not the CBC.
They're buying jets every year, are they not?
I don't know. They're cutting staff over there, so I'm not sure what the heck's going on. Bonuses for executives, but
yeah,
unfortunately, staff's getting the
hilarious.
axe.
Did you see? Hold on. Did you see that the CBC is still deciding whether or not to pay the bonus to the CEO, but that the decision is actually not publicly available once it's made?
That's because it's an arm's length agency.
Still.
So they don't have it. So from what I gather, it's not a decision that's going to be made by Parliament or any specific members. It's if they meet a metric, then it automatically triggers. So this is just a reality. If you don't like it, then that has to be changed. But yeah, it is what it is. Mo BTC's Dick 500 sats. He says, "Cheers to 60K again." And looking at my block clock, unfortunately, we're back to 59. So
50 is 59 again. Jeez.
Yeah, 59, 130. So yeah, Rander 501 sats. He says, "I boosted more than 500 sats just for you, Joey." So you boosted 501.
Did we give him a hard time about that? I don't think we did.
I don't know.
I'm fine with 500.
So Boss Strategies 1000 sats. Is it just me, or has this been the worst year? Ever since COVID, anecdotally, all I see is struggle and prosperity. I don't feel like expanding on that. Can these sats go to some sort of addiction/treatment facility? We all struggle.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. We're trying to figure out a way to give to Wayside more. I want to add that it's actually not been since COVID. I think it was basically since Harambe died, right? That's what everybody says. Ever since the gorilla incident at the Cincinnati Zoo, things have just not been the same.
I don't know. You get pinned on so many other things.
Yeah.
I guess is when OJ finally kicked the bucket. That was for me.
OJ.
He was trying to look for the killer, and then unfortunately now it's going to go cold. His case,
or the cold case. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So North Star Weld Service 1,111 sats. This boost is for your jet fund, not to donate to an NGO scammer that claims to do surgery on children in Bangladesh. So yeah, CBP jet fund is growing. This is good.
I can't believe that.
People want us to get the jet.
Anyway, can't be that hard. There's a place here. There's a place here in town called the Hamilton Air Force Association, the Haffa Club, as the locals call it. I guess I'm a local, so I'll call it that too. They have an old like tin can sort of war era, got to be like a small engine aircraft out front. I bet you that thing, I don't know, you could probably get one on like Facebook Marketplace or something similar. I bet you for less than 10 grand.
Maybe if that year, was in
next year end,
it would be gone.
You have to put bollards up.
That thing wouldn't last for sure. So it would just be on some flatbed
The
sent over to
the
Nigeria.
police would tell you they can't find it, even though it's the only aircraft in the car lot at the train yard.
We're still investigating if it is indeed
So you're
yours.
just having a hard time pinning it down. Give us time.
Let's talk about some Bitcoin related. Actually,
Sure.
before we go there, is there any last things you want to give you the option here?
No,
So,
I don't have anything to add. I don't have anything.
all right,
to add.
15 minutes in, I guess, is a good time to start talking about
Yeah.
Bitcoin stuff. So, I guess first one is going to be very local. It's actually a really great story, I would say, in fact, because there's a gas station that is local to somebody local to us. It's Esso, located at 297 Main Street West in Port Colborne, Ontario. So not
close.
too far, I guess, from us.
Hour away.
Minute drive, whatever, an hour. Yeah. Well, they're now accepting Bitcoin for payment. So you could go there and you could fill up your car and you could use Bitcoin as your method of payment, which is really cool. Coinos, from what I gather, I could be wrong on this, but they may have to help facilitate this whole thing. And so in order for them to collect Bitcoin and start, accepting it, Coinos was the people, or were the people that made it happen. So that's really cool in that respect. In terms of what they're doing with the Bitcoin, from what I gather, they're hodling everything. So everything they're getting, they're keeping from themselves. They're not selling it, which is a good thing, because I just want to remind people out there the implications for when it comes time to start selling. So if you're going to go there and start filling your your car with gas and use Bitcoin, in Canada at least, you have to report that to CRA, to our tax agency over here. And the buy price of your Bitcoin to sell price, the difference, it's there's going to be capital gains tax that's going to be applied to that. So that's why I'm satisfied on their side of things that they say they're hodling their Bitcoin, the Esso station, because if they were to sell it, then they have to report to the CRA. But everybody that's going there, that's going to be paying up, remember, unless you want to really get shafted in the end, take this information down, report it, because who knows, maybe these guys, they could be reporting it for you.
Yeah.
You never know. You have to, don't trust, verify. And I'm happy that they're accepting Bitcoin, but just be careful when you do start spending your Bitcoin, because you never know if they're doing it in good faith or bad faith. They could be sending the information off to CRA. And if you don't do the same thing, be ready, because if they start doing an audit on you, it could happen for the previous years as well, and also future years as well. It could be very, very bad time for you.
Totally agree. Although I love this story. How about Coinos? Cole, and I think Aaron is the guy's name, who's the developer or the sort of technical lead. These guys, man, I see videos of Cole on Twitter, I think more than I might see anybody else these days. He's either at an event, at a meetup, trying to onboard somebody, or talking about Coinos's new features all the time. I am ashamed that it took me like almost a year to schedule a podcast with those guys, because they are crushing it, Len. And I maintain that as far as ease of onboarding and ease of use, that wallet is really still top of the line. There's nothing easier than that. You and me talked about it offline. I talked about it during that interview. Those guys are doing stuff that no one else in the space is doing. And for Cole to be able to just waltz into a gas station, onboard the guy, presumably who already knew about Bitcoin, maybe not about Coinos, and have the guy accepting Bitcoin very easily, very quickly, that's invaluable. One of the hurdles we have in this space is like the sort of technical gap between understanding Bitcoin, wanting it, but being able to accept it for a service, right? And these guys are really eliminating that last gap, or one of the last gaps. You'd love to see it, man. I'm hyped on this. I think you sent out a tweet too that if the guy was willing, we'd have him on the show.
So I did that, and somebody was able to indirectly get in touch with him because of they want to remain, I guess, kind of anonymous in the whole thing.
Sure.
They're not going to want to come on and discuss it, and I totally respect that. So I'm fine with that. So it looks like that's not going to happen, unfortunately.
That's okay.
Tried.
Kudos to the guy anyways. Good stuff.
Yeah, agreed. Core Scientific, let's do just a brief discussion on them. This is the very large publicly traded Bitcoin miner. They filed for Chapter 11 back in 2022 because of a lot of debt they took on in 2021 when debt was cheap, and they were trying to expand aggressively during a time when the Bitcoin price was very high, and they thought this is a good time to expand. Well, we know what happened with them. Now they claim that their balance sheet is much better. They say, quote unquote, strengthened balance sheet is what they have right now. This is after the Chapter 11 and starting up again. But from what I look here, if you don't look at history and learn from it, you're doomed to repeat it. And this might be one situation that could be applicable, because this week Core Scientific has went out and raised $400 million of debt. This is from convertible notes that matures in 2029. 3% interest rates. Those are very favorable terms. I have to admit that, but still, it's a lot of debt they're taking on, and it might be used for dealing with older debt as a way, like, just repurposing old debt and just getting this newer debt at a cheaper price. But either way, like that, just looking at the fact that a company not too long ago went into bankruptcy because of the amount of debt that they had, they're doing it again.
Yep.
And when this announcement came out, their stock price dipped 10%. So investors didn't like this news right off the bat. It has since recovered, and in the previous, in the subsequent few days after that. So I guess the investors didn't take it too bad in the grand scheme of things, but initially they didn't. So there was some immediate concerns. This company does have still a significant amount of the overall hash rate.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get at is, if history does repeat itself in one way or another, and something were to happen with Core Scientific, this could be one of the first dominoes to fall, which could lead to a bearish market. If you have a company that has a large amount of stake in terms of overall hash rate, then they start selling equipment en masse and then driving down the price, and other miners are then stuck in the same position where
no, that would never happen, Len. There's no
No.
precedent for that. No.
Right. So
Come
and
on.
I'm just looking at this. It's just like, man, they're taking on a significant amount of debt here.
Don't you think it's weird that they're trying to just push it out to the next halving cycle? Like the 2029 date, I realize it's 5 years. 5 years is a nice round number, but everyone knows why that's the date they chose. Everybody knows that. Saylor does the same thing. He sends things out one cycle at a time because he's assuming correctly so far that the price will be significantly higher, and he can use that to eat up some of the problems he might have otherwise had. So these guys are doing the same thing. It's not a bad strategy thus far. Past performance does not guarantee future success, obviously, but if they want to stay in business, what choice do they have besides something like this?
So if they want to stay in business, this goes to show that, I guess, being a pure Bitcoin miner is a business that's going to be continually being in debt.
Yeah.
Right. There seems to be no way of getting out of it. You're not going to make profits year over year, and then you're going to be able. It's almost looking like it's any government. I'll use the U.S. government, for instance. The debt that they have, they're never going to pay it back. They're just going to keep adding to it. I'm talking about the U.S. government.
Yeah.
The same thing is going to apply with these companies. Like, they're taking on significant amount of debt. Do you think it's going to be more profitable in the future to mine Bitcoin? It's going to get more challenging, if anything. And so that debt, unless it gets right? Yeah, unless that debt gets inflated away and it gets easier for them to pay it off, and they could use the hard assets they mine to pay for that, maybe. But there's a lot of questions that you're basically hoping that they get answered along the way. But I'm looking at this, like I say, history tends to repeat itself, especially for those who don't respect it. And looking at this one here, this isn't ancient history. This is just 2 years ago that they just went through this Chapter 11 process.
And it's every halving cycle that we see things like this really crush miners, and again, like you and I have talked about this a lot, and you were on this corner very early that mining is just not that easy a business. And all these guys who think they can just grab, deploy, issue debt, issue notes, whatever, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It hasn't been a very, a significant success story basically anywhere. And if you look across the landscape of miners, Len, how many of the big guys who can execute this strategy are executing this strategy?
Taking on debt. And just, is Riot doing it? Is Marathon recently went through some debt where they used that to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, but they're not issuing like, these guys are not bankrupt, right? They're all making bets on the price going up every 4 years. And like I said, so far it's been fine, but this is not, if you're an investor, this is not a business I think you want to be like buying shares in my opinion, because
100%.
now, because now, right? Like, think about what's happening here. We talked about this with Jeff Lucas, the Bitfarms CFO. What's happening is, they're competing against companies like NVIDIA. You can say whatever you want about NVIDIA. Are they the product of the yen carry trade? I don't know, man. Doesn't matter. The price is the price. If you're deciding between buying a company like Bitfarms or Riot or Marathon or whoever on the open markets, then what you're really doing is trying to get exposure to AI, because they're all in these HPC applications now. They're sort of bicameral in the way that they approach profit maxing. Okay, fine. So now you got to compete with these companies who are AI based that might give you more pure play exposure to AI and high powered compute. So that's something that you might want to buy instead of a miner. Now you're telling me that the miners are actually just issuing debt to buy Bitcoin. Like if
some
issuing,
are.
some are, I know. So like some of these companies are, or issuing debt to buy miners, or issuing debt to stay afloat and keep the operation. No matter what, the derivative in all those cases is the same. It's the Bitcoin price. So now you're telling me I'm going to buy your miner instead of buying AI, or I'm going to buy your miner instead of just buying Bitcoin. The gamble is the same, and the exposure is more pure in both cases by buying NVIDIA or by buying spot. So why buy the miners on the open market? You have all these risks in execution, all these risks in legislation, all these risks in power purchase agreements. The risk is everywhere. But on the other side, there's no risk. NVIDIA will sell chips to guys eating Doritos off their chest, no matter what the price of Bitcoin is. And the spot price of Bitcoin will go up. And if it's, if these companies are successful in their gambit, then you will be fabulously wealthy anyways, and having not had to deal with any of that execution risk over the 4-year halving cycle. It doesn't make sense to me. Why would you buy the miners? I just don't get it. I continue to have trouble metabolizing this idea that these guys are a good high beta play, because it used to be that they rose and fall with the Bitcoin price. To some extent, that's still true, though less today than 4 years ago. And 4 years from now, assuming these guys all continue executing this strategy or trying to, it's going to be even more tightly correlated with much greater risk of ruin along the way. Don't do it. Don't do it. The last thing you want is to be involved in one of these companies, and then there's a 6-page PDF that comes out on why it's important to use DEI practices in their C-suite hires, and then you're fucked. You're in the company, they're down 10%. You don't have the Bitcoin, you don't have the equity. What do you have? Your tail between your legs and your thumb up your ass. That's what you got if you buy these things. You're better off going the other direction in both cases, I think. We got to get SB on here to tell me why I'm wrong, because he's a big miner guy, but I personally don't see it. I personally don't see it.
Well, Goldman Sachs made news this past week.
I love that you said that on Twitter, and I think we coined that on this program.
You did many moons ago. I think
was
that
it
was
me
one
or
of the
you?
First,
one of us.
No, it was you. You said that in like one of the first 2 or 3 episodes that we've done. So I like the name because it kind of applies for the most part. Because as of June 30th, we've learned that they have several positions in the Bitcoin ETF. So it's not just one. They're playing for whatever reason that they have in many of the Bitcoin spot ETFs, and the amount that they have so far purchased is to the tune of around $400 million, a little bit more than that as of June 30th. That's quite a bit of money that they have allocated toward them. But let's be honest, this company, they have way more money available at their disposal. So then they're just putting like a small portion of it towards Bitcoin ETFs. But still, it's a positive sign in terms of the fact that they're looking at this and they're using this as a potential way to increase their overall valuation. It's not just them too, but Morgan Stanley also has a play in these ETFs, although they have reduced their overall size of the ETFs. They initially had around $270 million in that. Now it's around $190 million. So still they have a decent amount. Like 190 is more than a decent. It's just, I wish I even had a portion of that at my disposal. Either way, they are reducing their allocation towards the Bitcoin ETF slightly, but they still have a heck of a lot. But there's others too. I'm not sure if you saw this one. It's London-based Capula Investment Management. You heard about this company?
Crapola Investment Management. What was the name of the
Capula? I think that's how you pronounce the name. Apparently it's a very large European investment firm, and they disclose that they hold over $460 million in the spot Bitcoin ETFs themselves, and that's there's tons out there. So as of right now, all those ETFs, from the last information I have, in total is around $53 billion that has been flowed into these ETFs as of mid-August. So things may have changed since then. So $53 billion. In the grand scheme of things, the market cap of Bitcoin stands at a little bit over 1.1 trillion. So if you want to figure it out, it's still a very small portion is allocated to the ETFs, but it seems to be growing by the day, for better or for worse. I've talked about my displeasure of the ETFs, but still people are using it, and they could do what they want with their capital, and then I'm going to laugh at them when they don't have access to their capital. But until then, people seem to be using these ETFs, and it's growing in terms of popularity, and I suspect it's going to continue growing even further. So Goldman Sachs, interesting news by them.
Have you changed your view on ETFs at all?
No. No, I'm looking at what's happening every day. I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking we're one step closer to not getting access to our funds. Now, not to say that it's imminent, but it's just a little bit closer to not getting it. And then every day we're a little bit closer. And eventually, it comes a point where it's not there. When you have to liquidate your holdings, say you have ownership of anything, ETF,
Mhm.
ownership of Apple, what the fuck it is. When you sell, how long does it take for you to get that cash in hand? From between selling to cash physically in your hand, how long is that?
5 days, probably.
It's a lot of fucking time.
Yeah.
And that's the best case scenario. There could be some holidays in between. There could be some roadblocks put in place. But best case, that's 5 fucking days. I don't like that. Look how things are going, how things are accelerating. And if they continue to do this, why would anybody look at this and say, yeah, that's a good play. Give them my money and I'm going to get access to it later on.
I
Oh,
said
man.
I said to Kevin Muir on the show that we did together a couple weeks ago now that the big concern for me remains that the peer-to-peer application of Bitcoin is diluted the more people hold Bitcoin in an ETF product. And to pretend at this stage that Coinbase and some of these other ETF issuers, ETF brokers, whatever you want to call them, are not arms of the state, pragmatically or officially in some cases, I think is wrong. So I'm with you on that concern. The rugging thing, I don't. It's hard for me to imagine that happens, only because it would be you'd be in like a wartime stance to have the government bail in basically using the Bitcoin ETFs. And that's at some level what they would be doing. They could say maybe they're confiscating or giving fair value to the people who hold the Bitcoin in cash. I mean, it's possible, but it would really be, there would be other things along the way, I think, that would be more telling and potentially more harmful, let's say, to the trust landscape in the United States. I heard Pierre Rochard on Said Youngelman's podcast the other day. Tell me what you think about this, Len. People who are worried about the Bitcoin, if you're buying the ETF and you're a little worried about the ETF being rugged by the government, or Coinbase being rugged by the government, right? Like your coins on exchanges. Isn't it better to just have the government hold your Bitcoin? Because if you're worried about, if you have your Bitcoin on Coinbase, then you could be rugged by Coinbase or by the government. But if you just eliminate Coinbase from the equation and just let the government hold your keys, then only the government can rug you anyways. It's almost better to just let the government hold your coins than to actually have your coins on exchange. I had not considered that, but I laughed out loud at that. I thought that is just so fucking funny because it's spot on. It's so spot on. The exchanges just have no role. They are only another risk for people. And it's amazing that everyone hasn't figured that out. It's sort of separate from the ETFs, but in the same vein. I had a great laugh at that the other day.
That is interesting, but it's still just replacing who you're trusting. It's trusting.
No, it's for sure. It's still bad. Yeah, it's still bad.
Right.
I know, but it did make me laugh. Safer for the government, safer for Jerome Powell to just hold your keys in his pocket at the Grateful Dead concert than it is to leave your coins on Coinbase.
Given everything that they've done, how much faith do you have in them actually doing it properly? You getting access to it whenever you want to get access to it.
Never. There's no evidence. You're never getting it back.
You have not. So I think that's probably, if you have to guess, or sorry, if you have to pick your poison, it's probably the worst of the two. But either one, and I've talked about it at length, and people may disagree with my stance, and that's fine. I mean, I'm looking at this as a glass half full scenario, and others may not. They may see this as 3/4 full, and things are not going to be as dire as what they are. But you know what? The one beautiful thing about Bitcoin is that it gives you the opportunity to hold your keys, and beyond that, to verify your transactions. And you could do so with very little hardware in terms of the scope of specs and so forth. So why go away from that? I mean, for tax advantages, okay. I mean, but you're still going to be living within that fiat world,
especially if your time horizon is 10 years or longer that you and I have, right? Like, do you really care about the taxes that much? Like, it's not worth the risk. Yeah,
I agree.
It's not worth the risk.
What I like about Bitcoin is the fact that there's only 21 million, and there's a set amount, and there's so many. It just doesn't exist with the US dollar or insert your fiat currency here. It's just that's just the reality of it. And why would I want to operate or even recommend anybody operate within that? I mean, learn what is available to you. It doesn't take that much time and effort to figure it out. And when you do, there will be an aha moment. It's like, wow. So like, I mean, I was talking to my mechanic just this past week, and we were just going on this tangent about this and that. Eventually we got to the point of talking about Bitcoin, and I explained to him what is Bitcoin, and he's just like, it clued in to him, like, wow, nobody explained it the way you have. Because when you understand the fundamentals of what it is all about, then then you understand why people want to buy it, and then
Totally.
what are the characteristics of it, and then taking away from that, then just removing those characteristics and plugging in these fiat measures, and fuck that, man. I get it. I understand why.
Yeah, some good comments in the chat from Boom Dust. If you can order Uber Eats, you can hold your own keys. And from Narwhal, from Narwhal Tacos, if you can file your own taxes, self-custody is a cakewalk. That's actually true. Filing your own taxes is such a pain in the ass. If you can do that, then you can definitely hold your own keys. It's not that hard. How many people it's funny. I hear people all the time talking about, especially, this is the thing that drives me the most nuts about the older crowd. People who had no choice but to write their passwords down in a notebook 30 years ago when computers first started to proliferate because there was no password saving, no nothing, are telling me now that they are afraid to write down their 12 words for the Bitcoin wallet. This is, it's almost unbelievable to me. Like it's so easy. You've actually done it before and you can just do it again now. It's like, it's not that difficult. It's just simply not that difficult.
I don't think people understand that there's the 12 or 24 words. Like when I talk to normies about, and this is something they just don't know. So even the fact that, you're saving passwords back in the day on pieces of paper, and now it's simply just repeated by times 12 or 24.
Yeah.
They just don't know that. Like the onus is on us to educate as many people as possible. And it's up to people to walk that path. If they choose to walk it or not, it's up to them. That's fine. But at least we give them the option, and they have the tools that enable them to hold their own Bitcoin. And if they do it, like I said, all the more power to them. If not, have fun staying poor.
When you walk on the sand with Len, there's only one set of footprints.
And we are going right to El Salvador or wherever else is going to have some nice golf course and tennis court. Anyway, MSTR, kind of MSTR story. Yeah. You must have heard this one. MSTX.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this?
The double levered bull or whatever.
It's
for the real degenerates out there, as if the high beta from MSTR is not enough. You gotta get double the exposure.
It's not quite double, it's close to it though. But it's a single stock leveraged ETF, and it's based 100% on MicroStrategy stock, and they offer 175% exposure. So this is obviously for the people that are long MSTR, because if you're bearish in it, this thing, you're just going to get absolutely wrecked if you think that's your thesis that it's going to go down. This was debuted MSTX August 15th. So it's rather new, just late last week. So if you want to take advantage of buying into some derivative of MSTR, which is a derivative of the price of Bitcoin, so you just keep going down. All the more power to you, man.
It's a Russian doll derivatives.
You got to be a true degen. This is gambling to the nth degree.
I'm
sure a lot of
let's do it.
You want to put the whole CBP
I have some MSTR stock.
On it?
I should just sell. Like if I sell, I guess I would sell 10 shares now because they just 10 to 1. Should I sell 10 shares of MSTR and put it all in MSTX? That would be so legit. It would just fly. Well, if you're in MSTR anyway, wouldn't the rational thing be to take some of that off the table and put it into this and just see how it goes?
This gets rebalanced, I think, on the daily. So if you're going to be, from what I understand, I could be wrong in this, if you're doing this to hold for a very long period of time, it's not the right thing to do. If you think there's going to be a short period run up, a few days, maybe a week or two, then this is the thing to do. But if it starts going choppy for some time, I think you just lose out in the end. And you're going to lose it either way. Let's be perfectly honest. You're fucking gambling here.
I got to see.
You want to put the jet fund?
Dog days of summer. Yeah. If we just, it's like, Len, it's like going to the casino and just throwing $50 on red at the beginning of the night. So you got an extra $50 to party. I used to do that going to Dragonfly when I was in my 20s all the time. You go to the casino and put $40 on red as soon as you walk in. If you lose the $40, you lose it. But
what's Dragonfly?
Dragonfly is a casino / club in Niagara Falls. Really dating myself. I don't even know if it's still open, honestly, but I had some.
That's legit, because I thought the only one they had was Casino Niagara and
It's
Fallsview.
attached. It's attached to a hotel. It's at Fallsview. It's attached to the hotel and casino in Fallsview, and it's like this club. It's a nightclub, and yeah, I don't need to rehash those days, but I'll tell you, it was great. I enjoyed every time I went there. It was an excellent choice every single time.
And in case this isn't legit, Joey allegedly went there. We're not 100% sure. It's all just maybe a figment of his imagination.
There was no
So,
cell phone cameras back then. It was like Motorola Razr days. So,
Did you hear about this South Korea pension fund, the National Pension Service?
what are they about
Yes.
to?
They bought $34 million of shares of MSTR. So this is touted as the third largest pension fund in the world. So if you do a Google search on largest pension fund, this is either number 3 or number 4. So this is the National Pension Service, and it's the South Korea Pension Fund. And so yeah, they bought this MSTR before the stock split. Not that it really means anything in the end, but that's the time frame in which they bought it. So yeah, $34 million, and that's not it, Joey. You're gonna like this one too, because they also own around $45 million of Coinbase.
Nice.
And they have that. So yeah, they're hopefully pumping your bags.
They're high beta. They're just high beta moves, right? For people who can't buy spot Bitcoin. I don't know. I don't really have too much to add to a story like this at this point, because you're seeing it more and more and more. You saw some more pension funds in America disclosing positions.
State of
in these
Wisconsin
things.
being one of them, and North Carolina.
Do you think these are? I mean, not that I don't want to keep talking about them on the show. They're noteworthy, and they're definitely signposts that things are going the right direction for the Bitcoin crowd. But do you expect that these stories will continue to be noteworthy for another year? At this point, you're going to get another cycle of these releases, and by that time, you'll have 15 states maybe with Bitcoin or Bitcoin exposure somehow, either through Coinbase stock, MSTR stock, or the ETFs in the United States. I expect you're going to see it from pension funds here pretty soon, like the teacher's pension, probably OMERS, probably. It's only a matter of time, right? And like I said before, the thing that's important here is not that they're buying it. That's great. But the really important thing is that now that a pension has it, other pensions that don't have it are benchmarking against these other pensions that are holding the best asset on the planet. And so they have no choice, right? Because pensions don't care what, Citadel is doing or Roaring Kitty is doing or whatever. What they care about is what other pensions are doing, what endowments are doing, what are their gains like year over year, quarter over quarter. That's where the benchmark is. And so now that these other pensions are in there, you're going to go through a year where, 10% of the pensions in the States have this thing, and they're going to be crushing, after 4 years. And I expect that everyone's going to get on board. Just seems like it's a no-brainer, right? The only side is that you're kind of putting yourself out of a job a little bit. Like you're cannibalizing some of your own work because you don't have to study the C-suite of Bitcoin. You don't have to study the execution risk in Bitcoin. It just goes, right? It just goes. You're buying hard money, and it's something that, maybe you can take a couple more Fridays off if you're a pension investment manager, if you have Bitcoin. Easy.
Yeah. Play golf with us.
Yeah. Len needs to go on Friday, actually. So
yeah, we need one guy. I'm just putting up fielders for some of the, maybe I'll ask the CBP folks if they want to join. Anyways, the fact that we have now more of these, you mentioned the pension funds and now this South Korea fund, they're getting into exposure to Bitcoin, MSTR, and these ETFs, the spot ETFs. As this increases, doesn't it then seem that as the price of Bitcoin moves, it's going to impact their bottom line? And it could be almost like a global thing. Not that they're going to be heavily tied to Bitcoin, but as they, we go down this path, more and more money is going to be tied to it. And it's going to impact the market as a whole because they're going to have shares in those ETFs. And
maybe
if the price of Bitcoin goes up substantially, it might move the market as a whole.
Do you know what the problem is though? Rebalancing. Like the pensions have to rebalance, right? So if it becomes too successful, they kind of, kick their own legs out from underneath them a little bit, right? Because if they have to rebalance, they'll sell the sort of best performing stuff in their portfolio. Other thing I'm concerned about in Canada and Europe, Canada and the European countries more than in the States, is that the pensions are going to be forced to buy 25% domestic stocks. And that's a problem, right? And IBIT is not domestic. I know we have some ETF offerings here, but they're not going to qualify for that.
Capital controls, Joey.
Yeah, I know they're
There we
coming.
go.
They're coming. I think they're coming for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about
You've
some
seen it.
things in the same vein and going on in the notable stories. But yeah, you're clearly heading that direction, big time.
Yeah, and you see this shit is happening right before our very eyes. You can't keep your blinders on forever. Eventually, you just have to take them off and say, "Holy fuck! Why are we doing this? Like, let's get something that prevents us from getting rugged moving forward." Oh, what is that? Spot Bitcoin. I mean, sorry, actual like Bitcoin itself, but cold storage. Away you go.
Yeah.
But anyways, Mark Cuban, your buddy.
He's your buddy. He's your colleague.
Oh, he's all our buddies, right? Like he's out there painting all Bitcoiners with the same brush.
I hate that guy so goddamn much. He's so stupid. The things he says. He's on Kamala's crypto town hall or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh
yeah.
my god.
You saw that he was calling the Bitcoin
suck.
maxis elites.
What an idiot.
And we're all out here hoping that our
I'm an elite. Are you an elite? I'm in my fucking basement. Like,
here we go.
I'm not an elite anything. I got these chairs on sale at Wayfair. Like
I can tell you, he may think I'm elite, right? Like I may be a Bitcoin maxi. My car, and you know what? Let's just take this. My car probably has more kilometers than the total kilometers of all the cars in his fleet. My car's 22 fucking years. Does this make me a fucking elitist? But my car is like this.
You're a car maxi. Yeah. Monogamy.
What about jet ownership? We talked about jets trying to buy it with the CBP, right? We're struggling to get there. We want to get to that magical point of owning a jet. But that's elite, right? Owning a jet? Would you say, Joey?
Yeah.
He owns 2 fucking jets.
Nice. What about climate change? Is he a climate crusader? No.
You know, sure, Joey, I haven't been on a plane this decade. You know that? And last decade, I've only went on 1 trip abroad.
This decade, since 2020?
So I haven't been on a plane. I'm elite. According to him, I'm fucking, haven't been on a fucking plane this decade. Last decade, only once. So in 14 years, I've been on a plane twice. Out Canada, back in.
Yeah.
That's elite. 22-year-old fucking car. Basement here. Like, come on, man. Get the fuck out of here.
I've been vacationing on a plane since 2020 for sure.
You have, but I mean, I'm just trying to paint a picture here. Like, I'm a working stiff. I gotta wake up early in the morning to go to work to pay the bills.
Yep.
If I don't do that, if I don't go to work, bills don't get paid. House gets repossessed. I don't put food on the plates. We go hungry, and I can't put gas or diesel in my 22-year-old car. I'm gonna be fucking pushing it everywhere. That ain't fucking elite, man. All I'm trying to do is protect myself from debasement. Yeah. That's what Bitcoin does, right? There's only a finite amount of that out there. I'm not trying to pump my fucking bags. If it goes up, great, but I know it's not going to get debased. That's it. All the fucking garbage he's talking about, he can just fuck right off. And you know what? I'm with you on that. He's a clown.
Yeah, big time. I mean, the Kamala Sutra crypto town hall or whatever. Like, what is this crypto reset I keep hearing about? This, like, she's gonna realign with the crypto crowd, and like, where is it? Where is the reset? What is it? We're not Mark fucking Cuban. Like, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about?
Doge?
Yeah, tickets? Of course. This guy's an idiot.
Tickets for Dallas.
He gets dummied on cultural topics too, like that I/O account. Absolutely, just like crushes him on DEI stuff over and over again. Brings receipts. He's just like, whatever.
He may be like. Let's be honest. He didn't get there without making the right decisions, and he might have. He might be very smart, right? But just sometimes he just doesn't see the fuck's going on around him. And I think just having means being privileged, and that's what he is, but because of having it kind of blinds him what's going on in reality from what's the commoner out there, which I would imagine everybody tuning in is, and I'm sorry about this, is a commoner. At least I am. I'm going to put you in the same category as I am. So, like, I think he's getting blinded by this. And do
you think he's actually blind, or do you think he's just trying to pump his bags? Like, these guys have so much influence and so much understanding. He's talking about Ethereum. He's talking about all these other coins. He missed Bitcoin, right? He missed the big Bitcoin run up from $1 to 70K. And so, yeah, he's probably pissed about that. He's mad that we hit it in 2017, and, I didn't get fabulously rich, but it's been good. And he's like, oh, I got to find the next thing. Maybe I can be the origin point of the next thing. I think that's what all these guys think who don't get in quotes Bitcoin. I just don't buy it. I think they're full of shit.
I think he is. Are you going to be banning or boycotting any Dallas Maverick games moving forward?
I don't watch the Mavs anyway. Boom Dust in the chat saying he's lucky to get Luka Doncic. I think you're right. I think he probably would have taken Tatum, but that's my opinion. Tatum's not even a top 10 player, but that's a story for another time.
They won the championship.
They did win, but they are the least likable team I have ever seen, and so that makes me very happy. I hate the Celtics as a Raptors fan. I hate
the Celtics. We're talking about the we're talking Celtics. Or we're talking about the Mavericks.
No, the Celtics beat the Mavericks in the final.
No, I'm talking about in general though. In the past, they had Dirk Nowitzki, and
they won in 2011 or 10. They beat the first year of the LeBron, Wade, Bosch, Miami Heat, the Heatles as they were called.
They had success this century, so it's not like ancient history.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I have to give him credit with respect to that. I don't think that would have happened without him being at the helm somehow. So I'm going to give him credit there, but yeah, boycott his games. That's my opinion. Not financial.
Boycott.
Yeah, do that.
Then there's 225 people watching. So thank you to everyone who's coming out here. We appreciate you. Who else? What else are we going to talk about? Do you want to go one more Bitcoin, then head over to Notable?
I'm with you. This will be really quick because 53 years ago, this past week, August 15th, in fact, we had Nixon temporarily suspending the convertibility of dollars to gold.
Waiting for that to unwind any day now. That temporary measure should be unwinding any day.
Yeah, I'm just waiting. Nothing is permanent like a government program.
A temporary government program, yeah.
Right. I don't know. Maybe they could pressure them. Could France send another warship to the United States and maybe pressure them to say, because that's what triggered them, I guess, the last time in that and a bunch of other things. But maybe that could be done this time around. Twist their arm. Think about it. You have the president. He probably doesn't know what the hell's going on. Right? He probably sign some order and just reverse this temporary decisions. Oh, we'll just convert it back.
It's so jokes. I saw a clip today of Biden getting on a plane, and his wife, who was by his side, 24/7 and encouraging him and patting him on the head like he's a fucking poodle. They're getting on the plane today, and she just doesn't even look at the guy, doesn't talk to him. She's walking behind him. Like, it's just so transparent. Like, she knows he's not there either. It's just, God, what a sad way to go out.
It is sad. If you want to talk about on a human element, Biden, he was a senator for decades.
Long time. Yeah.
Then he finally became vice president. And so becoming a senator is an achievement. Vice president, even more of an achievement, right? So he was able to carve out a history, like himself in history, just based on what he's done. And you have to imagine through all his times, the years he put in office, he had aspirations to become president one day. He finally became president, and just because it looks like he's just not there, and it's sad. Like, on a human element, like an individual that wanted to become this finally got there, and then just unfortunately he's losing it, and he's going to be losing the presidency as well. That's why I look at that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. You're 100% right, but whatever. It's the world turns, as they say. We're in election season now. We're about to ramp up. DNC started today or starts tomorrow. I saw some videos earlier of some very cheerful people outside the convention center there.
Yes. We'll lead off with some Chicago stories, but that's the end of the Bitcoin related stuff. Right? Because that's happening in Chicago, right?
Yeah, I know. I know. Unbelievable. Like, of all the fucking cities they could pick, they go to
Chirac. That's where they're going to go.
They go I don't know. Literally anywhere else would have been better than that.
Where? New York? I mean, you got to go to a stronghold, right? But New York's having their own difficulties too, right? I mean,
it's not Chicago. It's not Chicago. Come on.
But there's no shining light. It's like, wow, this fucking place is great.
God.
Seattle, maybe.
I don't know.
But he was talking about Seattle pretty good.
Shit. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Bitcoin stories are done. Notable stories up next. If you're on video, if you're on Spaces, stay here. We're not going anywhere. And if you're listening on the podcast, the rest will come out tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourself.
Don't be cock.
Okay. 54-24. Chicago. DNC story. What do you want to do first?
Well, I don't want to talk about the DNC. If you want to, you could go ahead. But I want to talk about what we could use as a metric for showing that this is a city that's thriving, growing, a place where people want to grow. But population would be one, right? If you look at the population of something, that's indication of the growth or decline of a population
Yeah.
of where people want to live, where businesses want to set up and do business. But if you look at Chicago, their population fell to the lowest level since 1920. This has
Come
been over
on.
100
Since 1920. The
Yeah.
biggest drop or the overall population? There's
Just
no way
fell
it's the
to its
overall
lowest
population.
point. Its lowest point since 1920. So polling, 61% of all people living in Illinois also want to leave the state.
Oh, this.
And
Okay. Yeah. All right.
right. So if you look at that, a lot of people want to leave because of taxes over there. But where are they heading to is places like Florida, Texas, and other states. And
Go
why
fuck
are they
those
doing
places
it?
up.
Yeah, but they're taking a lot of it's a brain drain. Then it's also capital drain that goes along with it because tax incentives is driving a lot of people to go to those states. There's also housing, which is more affordable. Like I see listings in Texas for housing, and in comparison to what it is here in Southern Ontario, it's like holy fuck, you can get a lot over there in Texas compared to over here. And especially, I would imagine the same thing with Chicago. Job opportunities. Chicago's not doing all that great, but you look at that what's going on there with all these people moving to other states. It kind of looks like the same thing was happening here in Canada too. I don't want to make this a Canadian story, but we have people that are leaving Canada to other areas of the world, and it's for the same reasons as well: job opportunities, housing, tax incentives. And when you do that, when individuals move, when businesses move, that's tax dollars that are moving because you're not going to get income tax from these individuals. You're not going to get corporate taxes from those businesses. Then there's also the other things people of hiring other people and then they spend it. And there's a whole trickle down effect here, but this could easily spread to other areas. It just won't be localized simply to Chicago as other areas suffer the same fate. This could make some really bad areas like a swath of like northern states or even northeastern states in the United States just in a bad situation. And for the most part, a lot of these countries, a lot of these places were driving the GDP of the United States and in fact the fucking world. And if there's a change in where business is being done, commerce is being set up, this could be a change in the world itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at this. Chicago is like ground zero, not just for this, but also like for other things too. But yeah, I'm not sure if you want to add anything else to
it. Did you listen to Peter Thiel on Rogan?
No. What did he say?
It's worth it. They talked about this. They talked about it in the context of California, about how you're just seeing so many exits from California at this point that to keep these dumb programs running and to keep the spending up and to keep the, sort of the liquor going into the punch, you need a tax base that's willing to stick out your shitty policies because the rest of their life is so good, right? So, for example, the taxes are super high and everything is, politicized. Social problems are spreading all over the place, but at least there's a good nightlife, or at least it's warm, or at least it's whatever. The thing is that those places are having trouble keeping people. And so what ends up happening? You end up taxing the people who can't leave. The problem is the people who can't leave can't pay taxes at that level. And there's a lot of places seeing this. Chicago, one. California, those cities in California, another. What about Canada? Canada is at the point now where more people are paying more in taxes than they are in necessities every month. I'm assuming that includes income tax. So your income tax is minimum. I think, what's the minimum tax rate? Is it 20%, something like that? It's fairly high.
I have no idea.
It's fairly high. Like, chances are you're paying somewhere between 30 and 50% in Canada. I would imagine if you're listening to this show, you're a, fairly bright guy and net producer and you're making good money. And if you're not, I'm sure you could fix that because if you found us, you got something in the tank. These policies that force people to pay more in taxes than they spend on clothing and shelter and food cannot last forever. Why? Well, because those people eventually will break. And I've said this before, that everyone's got a tipping point. It's hard to leave for that person, but at some point it becomes harder to stay. and everyone's just going to go because the grass is going to be greener almost certainly, right? Right now, you run the risk of going somewhere and it not being as good, or going somewhere and it not being as easy, going somewhere and it not being as friendly, or whatever, or culture shock, or you name it. But soon you won't be able to avoid it. And Chicago, to kind of tie a bow on this, go back to your story there. In Canada, yeah, am I paying a fucking boatload of tax for services I'll never be able to use and shit that barely works? Sure. But at least there's not people fucking shooting me as soon as I leave my house. In Chicago, there's 20 shootings a weekend. Like literally all over the city, there's places you can't go because you're going to get killed or robbed or some combination of the two. That's if you don't get pissed on by a drug addicted vagrant in the interim. You can't be in these places. And the DNC, some of the videos from the DNC already look insane because these people are taking no prisoners. They place blame squarely on one of the two parties. And I'll give you a hint. Like you said, the DNC doesn't hold their convention in a Republican stronghold. They hold it in a Democratic one. And yeah, I mean, the policies, they have consequences. And a place like that's been democratically governed for what, 50 years? I don't know, a long time. You see the results. You be the judge whether or not it worked.
The best story I remember we talked about a few times is there's a Chicago White Sox game, and that lady, she smuggled that gun within the folds of her flesh.
Incredible.
And shot herself accidentally in the stands.
That's the American dream.
That is it, right? What a great story. If anything,
and the game continued. The game continued.
Not only did the game continue, the fans for the most part didn't even react. It was just like another it's like somebody crushed a can or something.
They saw it at a stoplight on their way here. What's it matter if it happens?
Yeah. So that was
I don't even lock my doors over the fat guy shooting himself in the fat leg or whatever.
By the way, did you see the White Sox, how bad they're playing? If you can look at
they stink.
It's like
they stink.
The lowest. So yeah, nothing's going well in Chicago. Inflation, though, seems to be on the right track in the United States because it was reported that it was down to 2.9% in July. This is lower than expectations. And this is the lowest level since March 2021. So it's been 3 years and change since we were at this particular moment. So it looks like they're priming us for a potential rate cut, right? With coming out with this news.
Yeah.
But one thing I have to admit, and granted, I don't live in the United States, but Canada, we're kind of similar in this regards. Prices seem to be stabilizing. Like the rate of change isn't as much month over month, even year. Like there was a significant change between 2021 to 2022 and 23 and so forth.
Sure,
but in the last few months, you see things have stabilized because, they stopped really with quantitative easing. They're kind of doing quantitative tightening. And this, in the end, if you do this, you're going to have some price stability moving forward. Maybe not in totality, but it's going to be a matter of time before they reverse that. They'll go from
global M2 is turning up. So global liquidity is turning up. US liquidity is still sideways, but also looks to be about to break out on a chart.
And once that happens, look out. Then this number is delayed, this 2.9%.
Plus, Len, it's just fucking bullshit. Like the numbers for cereal and popsicles. It's not for shit you actually want. Okay, that's all there is to it. And like can
you say like in the past 3 months things have changed drastically even for the things you want? I will argue like they're pretty stable for them. Like
you're right. They're not going
back further, probably not, but
Jackson Hole is on Friday. You will remember a year ago at Jackson Hole, or 2 years ago at Jackson Hole, everyone said, "Oh, well, look at all these. He's gonna talk about interest rates. They don't ever say anything at Jackson Hole. It's always nondescript." Then he comes out and reads the riot act. We're not cutting rates. We're not cutting rates. We're raising them, and they're going to be there for a while. So over that year, he raises to whatever the policy rate is, 5 and change, and he decides that he can only hold it for about a year. Now the market pricing in at 100% certainty, at least 25 basis points in September, probably more. I don't buy for a second the data around inflation land in the States for, as I mentioned, because it's mostly for Pez candies and popsicles. But on top of that, the idea that these guys don't want the Democratic Party to win, I think is just wrong. Trump has been very vocal about what he thinks Powell should do, should have done, has done wrong. And also was on TV a little while ago talking about how he thinks the president should have a say in the policy rate. It shouldn't just be the Federal Reserve who gets to decide it. that's a dicey road to go down. I don't necessarily agree with Big Don on that one, but the idea that these guys don't want things to stay status quo in terms of their power and their influence and the direction that the government and the economic policy of the Federal Reserve is going, that they want that to change or they want to be fired. No, I don't think so. And so is it a mystery that suddenly this body that has been apolitical and done everything they can, perceived, real or otherwise, to stay out of the political realm is going to cut probably twice before the election? I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I think it's actually spot on. I think it's spot on to say that they are becoming political, even if they're pretending they're not. I'm going to wait to see what he says at Jackson Hole on Friday. And I suspect it'll be not quite a victory lap, but something close. He'll reference the speech 2 years ago and he'll say, in those 2 years, we made some difficult decisions. We think they were the right decisions. And so far, we've been correct in that assumption. And directionally, we are headed the right way. We've done it. Something like that. It won't matter, obviously, because after the election, assuming Kamala Sutra wins, we'll get price controls. You saw today the U.S. implementing basically the same level of low skill, low wage immigration that Canada's doing on the Kamala platform. And you're going to get more inflation. You can't stop. Energy will cost more money. The SPR, it only has so much to give. All these things together, you're going to hit a winter here. War in Russia, not close to over, although some armchair quarterbacks will tell you that, Ukraine bombing some empty green space on the Russian border is like a big victory. These people don't pay attention at all. It's almost unbelievable. It's it's just like, it's a stacker's paradise. And I think we talked about this before, how there's like two groups of people, basically. One who bought and held every limited quantity equity asset commodity home they could during this last year and a half or 2 years, right? Whether it's Bitcoin, Microsoft stock, or a fourplex in your city. If you bought and held and hung in, you're going to be rewarded handsomely when rates start coming down. Because the idea that you're not going to get $100,000 Bitcoin, even as Kamala, if she wins, I'm assuming she'll win, by the way, even if she wins, and does her best to stomp out the crypto thing and the Bitcoin thing, she won't be able to. And like I said to QTR and Larry when they were on a little while ago, everything the government does now at any level in any country that's anti-Bitcoin is a scared whimper as opposed to a stern warning, because everyone can see the writing on the wall for all these currencies and all these governments. So long story short, rates will be cut probably twice before the election, maybe as much as 75 bips. The Fed is political. Powell will say he won, even though he knows he hasn't. And global M2 is about to turn up. And the price is probably going to turn up with it. So strap in.
Presidential candidate Kamala Harris.
Kamala Sutra. On this program, we call her Kamala Sutra. Say it. Say it. Kamala Sutra.
There's reasons why I want to just continue to call her Kamala Harris, because she's been making waves this past week when she was campaigning, and with a couple of new initiatives she wants to roll out if ever she becomes president of the United States. Number one, 3 million new homes is what she's committed to being
Sounds
built.
familiar.
And yeah, it's a very familiar thing that is being done here in Canada. She's proposing about giving first-time home buyers up to $25,000 towards a down payment. And this, let's be honest, I'm not sure exactly how it is as a totality in the United States for starter homes, because this is for new home buyers, first-time home buyers. So they're going to be buying new homes. So, starter homes. So I would imagine it's just going to elevate the price of those starter homes by about $25,000, because, well, if everybody has $25,000 to start with, well, the price of everything goes up by that much.
That's right.
Pushing it, and that's, it's too bad that's the case, but temporarily it might help people. In the long run, it will just hinder a lot of people, and it will just add to the existing tax burden that they have over there, because that's money that's not free. It's got to come from somewhere. If you want to go look at what's going on in the United States, the home sales, for instance, the existing homes sales, they fell 5.4% in June this year compared to May. And in June 2023, since June 2023, it's been consecutive month-over-month decline. So in the past 12 months and change. It's been month over month decline. So existing home sales have been dropping significantly month over month for a long period of time. So you have that, less homes being sold. Why? Because there's high interest rates, and who's going to want to give up a low interest rate mortgage that they have locked in before and enter into a new interest rate now? Like this could probably be 6, 7, 8%. So you're not going to want to sell a home. So inventory is down and nobody's selling. And now you have people coming in. There's more people that's entering into the United States because the population growth is going quite high. So money is being devalued. It's the perfect storm, right? Like there's no way people could buy these homes. And on top of that, that's just one problem. The second one Kamala Harris wants to solve is the high price of food. And she's targeting the price gouging in the food industry. And she says that she wants to put new penalties for opportunistic companies that exploit crises and break the rules. So I guess you could unpack that. CNN, I was reading an article by CNN that discussed this, and even they were saying that I'm going to quote this: Harris's plan to stop price gouging could create more problems than it solves. This is from CNN.
Yeah.
And they concluded that the best option is more competition. I'm with them on that. That's a really good point, because, one way to stifle innovation and growth in a particular sector is put the neck on competition, put the foot on the neck for competition, which they have been doing, or at least they want to do with this particular move. We could use examples here and real life examples. Late last year, and we talked about it, Chicago, they had some store closures because of a variety of reasons, and they were going to be setting up their own city-run grocery stores because they need to get right. So when you do that, that's a good way to stop price gouging. But what's going to happen? You have less competition and longer wait lines for people to get government cheese, and that's not the way to do things. You want to encourage competition. That's one way to drive price down. I'll be honest, if I was operating a grocery store and I'm making money hand over fist, it's not going to take very much for somebody else to look at, hey, this guy's doing it. I'm going to try to operate in the same field he is, but just lower the price a little bit. And then they're going to start making money. And then you finally come to an equilibrium where that's where the product should be sold at. That's the market deciding, not this policy. So what they're trying to achieve here. It's incredible that they're doing this now in 2024. They're talking about this. This is like borderline Soviet Union stuff, right? And we all know what happened there.
Did you see the Washington Post headline about Soviet Union, by the way? If people are calling you a communist, maybe you don't want to introduce price controls. That's the headline of the editorial from the Washington Post.
So CNN, now Washington Post. So that's obviously this is the United States, where capitalism should reign supreme.
It's the home of capitalism. It is the birthplace, the cradle of capitalism.
And this is not it. This is not a policy. And hopefully they realize the error in their way and go away from this and do something else to try to solve this problem. But the root of it, let's be honest, it's money that's been devalued. That's why your wages aren't going up to the same pace that the money is being devalued. And then the prices of shit go up and you can't buy it. Fucking find out why that is. Again, like I mentioned, it's devaluing the money. Fix that and you'll fix the problem.
You were spot on. I'm not even going to add anything to that, Len. That was exactly correct. Everything you said there, I totally agree with 100%. Is bang on. It's crazy to me this is going on. I look forward to seeing what the convention looks like. She'll have to speak. In terms of copying Canada's policy, incredible stuff on the housing front, incredible stuff on the grocer front. They're pulling from the same playbook. The immigration thing, the same. And then, she was asked in a media scrum yesterday or today how she's going to pay for all this. You know what she said, right? Talking about pulling from Canada's playbook. It's going to pay for itself.
Oh,
Len. I've seen this one before. I know how it turns out.
In some cases, they can pay for themselves, but you have to cost it out, and you have to.
Nothing pays for itself. There's going
to be something like there's going to be right, but you can come up with a plan to try to at least try to show that it will somehow money will flow from one to another and it will be revenue neutral in one way or another. You can theoretically come, but it's not everything was like that. You'd have to come out with a solid argument and prove and go through every scenario. It's tough to do, but it's possible. In this case, I don't think it is.
I look forward to seeing what 3 Cocktail Kamala is going to say during her DNC address. I'll say that.
So guaranteed she's speaking? Like, I'm not.
She'll speak for sure. She's the candidate. She's going to say something. It's going to be interesting to see how they get the people who wanted to be the candidate to support her. Guys like Newsom presumably will speak at that conference, or convention, I should say. Who else is on that potential ticket there? Like Cory Booker, he was a presidential candidate back in 2016. I don't know if he's still around now, but like these big name guys who would have liked the nomination. Obama, presumably Michelle Obama as well. Biden will have to speak. I think his daughter's introducing him maybe tonight. He's speaking. So it's just not like that. The party is in disarray, and the media is really carrying water for them. And you're going to see, I think, that they're still in disarray over the course of the next few days. Yeah. Boom Dust in the chat saying, Pete Buttigieg to Clinton, Hillary Clinton, maybe. Yeah. It'd be interesting, man. A lot of people would have liked that nomination, and instead they gave it to Kamala. Am I saying that right? Kamala, or is it Kamala? I just honestly don't know.
Yeah. My apologies if I, and the reason why, because
I'm not apologizing. I just want to make sure I'm saying it right.
No, I don't want to piss anybody off. Let's be honest.
No one should be pissed off with an honest mistake. These people
that's what it is. Like,
these people are insane. Just one other note here on the name. Kamala Sutra's in good fun. Anyone who calls you a racist for mispronouncing Kamala or Kamala is a fucking idiot. So
no, for me, it's not. And it's
I know, but there's people in the news. People in the news are on TV saying that it's like a racist attack to mispronounce her name. These people are fucking stupid. Ignore them, 100% of the time.
Agreed. Let's go to Quebec.
Love it. Sure.
School system over there that's being pushed to its absolute limits. They have a teacher shortage that is being experienced over there. They have population growth. Every province has had a major population growth, and Quebec is not excluded from this. They have 20,000 more students this year than they do last year. And about 80% of those new students are newcomers that came to the province. So that's essentially the breakdown. And in terms of their teacher shortage,
wait a minute, give me it one more time. Give me the breakdown one more time.
So 20,000 more students this year than last year.
Yeah.
And of that 20,000, 80% are newcomers.
Absolutely unbelievable.
And they need 5,700 teachers in order to be where they want to be. So there's 5,700 teacher positions that need to be filled. We're 2 weeks away from school starting. Or maybe less, actually.
I think it's less over there. Yeah, I think it's less over there. Yeah.
So according to StatsCan, and this is data that was published in June, there were almost 600,000 non-permanent residents in Quebec in second quarter of 2024. That's including 190,000 asylum seekers. And that's up from 420,000 temporary residents a year earlier. And 295,000.
50% gain? 50% gain in a year.
Just about, and furthermore, in 2022 was just around 300,000, 295.
Wow.
So it's 100% gain since. So that's accelerate, right?
Wow.
So and this all has to be done really soon in terms of filling those positions. Is then classroom sizes are going to be larger, and teachers are going to be dealing with more kids. It's a difficult situation. I mean, I don't want to get into this and that with the teaching, but let's be honest. Ideally, you want to have a certain teacher to student ratio, and they're probably not going to achieve it. And who's going to suffer in the end? Ultimately, is a student, because they're not going to get the same type of attention that they would get if they reach their ideal situation of having these 5,700 teachers positions filled. So it's a strange situation. But what's the cause of it? Or some of the causes of this? I don't want to say totality. Some of the causes of this is the increase of the population of Quebec.
I was a teacher in training once. Peut-être, I'm going to try my French here. Septembre serait le bon moment pour mon début dans une école. Boom Dust, tell me if that's correct. I don't know what the plan is over there. Forget the school thing, okay? How do the roads handle 600,000 more people in 2 years? Did they build $600,000 worth of roadways over there for traffic, for congestion, for anything? No. Did they add 600,000 people worth of hospital beds, doctors, professionals? No. Teachers, no. Fucking Subway sandwich artists, no. Literally nothing has been done to not combat, but to coordinate services for another 600,000 people in Quebec. By the way, how many of those 600,000 people speak French or English?
I would imagine a lot of them speak French because
Do
the
they?
silent
Okay.
yeah. So they come from French first speaking countries. So yeah, they speak French for the most part. And so yeah, Quebec does their own immigration too, by the way. It's separate from Canada.
Yes, they have a
Silent speakers,
different set
they
of
can't
rules.
control
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
but it is what it is. Yeah. So
Enjoy, have fun with that, because it ain't going to be good. You wonder why results in schools are getting worse, by the way. This idea that standardized testing doesn't work is one issue. It does work, of course. You're not bad at taking a test. You're just dumb. The other problem is that obviously teachers just don't have the bandwidth. How can you not burn out with a class of 40 kids where 20 of them or 15 of them or 10 of them are new Canadians? Even if they speak the language, the cultural assimilation period takes time.
Yeah.
You can't, it's insane. It's insane. And I don't know how else to describe it. This is it's a culturally a suicidal policy to do this. You just can't absorb this many people. You can't absorb that many people who are exactly like you in every way, from a structural point of view, from a services point of view. You just can't. Not in 2 years.
you can absorb 600,000 Bitcoiners, I think. Imagine if Canada got 600,000 new Bitcoiners. I think it would be
might be good.
a better place, I think.
They all got to go to Saskatchewan, though. It's too busy over here.
Let's talk about LMIAs, the labor market impact.
My favorite topic of the LMIA segment, brought to you by Tim Hortons. Order a double, and maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't. Only at Tim Hortons.
We'll be talking about Tim Hortons. Did you see this one?
Oh, I can't wait.
As per 6Buzz TV, that is a Twitter or X account.
Twitter and Instagram. Good account. Very good account.
Tim Hortons have been looking for workers abroad.
We talked about this 2 weeks ago. The LMIA website has like multiple Tim Hortons in Ontario. I think they had something like 700 people hired at Tim Hortons across Ontario on LMIAs. That's
incredible.
It should be illegal. It should be illegal.
Yeah. Well, let's move on then. We talked about late stage fiat. Let's talk about this one here. CTV article. And it was talking about, could swallowing a dose of human feces help cure some mental illnesses?
Oh, you're going to be begging. You're going to be begging for them to be pitching bugs.
Well, I think this is the timing of this is awesome. So they're going to try serving up feces as a way to deal with mental illnesses. And one way to get that feces is just head to your local beach and just scoop up whatever's there. So it's a perfect thing. So you have a steady supply of feces. And now you have a customer base in which you want to sell it to. This is a business that was just waiting to be fucking done. And now we have it.
God.
Thank you, those people from the Calgary researchers.
This is it. When we're finally put on trial for our crimes here, the jury's going to put on their headphones. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to put on your headphones for exhibit L2465, the beach discussion on CBP number 177. The jury puts their headphones on and it cuts right to you talking about the business idea you have for unlimited shit supply from Ontario beaches.
This is an absolute $1 billion idea. We should be able to harvest this. People, in fact, we should, instead of buying the jet, this is what we should do. We should fucking a new company that does this.
Shit distributors.
Let's do it, Joey. All right. Immigration incentives in Canada.
Wait a minute. We got to talk more about this story. These guys are trying to cure mental illnesses by feeding people shit. You're going to wish. We talked about this on the show before, and Julian Figueroa just did this like week-long thing where he was like eating bugs. You're going to you people who think it's like eats the bugs, you're going to wish they were feeding you bugs when you see what they actually want to feed you. You're going to wish for the bugs. You're going to be dreaming about the bugs. Because the bugs is going to look real good compared to what these guys got in store. Literal turds to fix your mental illness. It can't just be fixed. It can't be fixed by having affordable food or affordable family formation options or affordable housing. No. It's got to be fixed with poop, the poop of another to fix your mental. Like, come on, what are we talking about here? This is a real story, man. This is what's going on in this country.
I can't believe they published this in CTV. So they thought this was an idea that they should, somebody's got to read it. We got to fucking publish this story. People are going to consume it, and people are going to want it in the end. They're going to want to fucking consume this shit. I'm not talking about the fucking the article. I'm talking about the actual shit. So, fuck, man. Anyways, yeah. So immigration might be going through a change. There's proposals to change
Incredible.
how
This story's nuts. This story's
convert
nuts.
some temporary workers.
Not just convert. They're actively soliciting immigration in what the country calls tier 4 and tier 5.
I could let me just shed some, because what tier 4 and tier 5. Tier 4, this is straight from the Canada.ca website, and it's occupations that usually require a high school diploma or several weeks of on-the-job training. So they say some examples are home childcare providers, retail salespersons, and visual merchandisers. That's tier 4.
Tier 5, shelves. Visual merchandising is stocking shelves.
And tier 5 is occupations that usually need short-term work demonstration and no formal education. And some examples are landscaping and grounds maintenance laborers, and delivery service drivers, and door-to-door distributors. So that's essentially what tier 4, tier 5, Joey. I'll pass the baton over to you.
What is there to say? These are the people we're soliciting now. There is no veil. Like, this was thinly veiled before, and now there's no veil. We're not seeking doctors and engineers, guys. We're not seeking nurses or nurse practitioners. We're not seeking accountants or skilled people. We're seeking low wage, low income, low skill people to pad the bottom of whatever pyramid scheme, social program, is running into trouble, is going to run into trouble over the next 10 years. Is there any other way to describe this? What, am I missing something there? Is that like a dishonest take? Is it a slanted take? Am I misconstruing something in the policy proposal? Am I misconstruing what tier 4 and tier 5 labor looks like? These are not people who are going to climb the corporate ladder. Sorry, not everyone is the same. Okay. It's just a fact of the matter. It doesn't matter what country you come from. There's Canadians who are tier 4 and tier 5 types. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way it is. But we need better people than this in this country. And certainly we need more, a more concentrated effort to find people who are going to address the needs that the country has as it ages. It's not fucking Amazon drivers. It's doctors. It's nurses. It's high skill people, high functioning people. This is not going to help. This is to me very scary stuff. And I don't often say that on the show because I think it's weird to say things are scary. But if you invite 1 million people of that level to the country over the next 5 years, is that good or bad? Who is operating under the illusion that it's good to have 1 million more people like that in the country? Anyone?
I don't know. And it's hard to say because you're just giving a number, right? 1 million. And if we could break that down, say it is 1 million people that meet demand. So we have doctors that are going to be working here.
That's important. No. I mean 1 million. I mean 1 million people in tier 4 and 5. The people we're seeking out. Is it good for the country to have 1 million more of those people?
I'm not going to answer that.
You don't have to comment on that. But everyone knows whether it's good or bad. And like, it's not necessarily a shot at these people. Every country needs people like that. But we already have too many people like that. Clearly, all the services that those people use are not getting staffed by newcomers. They're just being used by newcomers. We need people to do those services, to perform those services, to be the expert. We're not getting them. Hell, Len, there's not even tradespeople on that list. Like construction, maybe in the landscaping designation there in tier 4, but like there's nothing there that we need. And so
construction seems to have gone downhill lately. There's less demand for that.
For now, but if you keep putting 1 million people in the country every year, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say about this. I honestly don't. I think we all got to be very, very concerned with the efforts and focus in terms of immigration that we're seeing. There's nothing in there about nurses and high skill people. Why? You be the judge. I don't know.
What are you doing tomorrow, Joey?
Besides work?
Yeah, just in general. Are you doing anything to celebrate tomorrow? Like Anything in particular?
What's
Because tomorrow is, as per the city of Toronto, they're going to be celebrating the Undocumented Residence Day. And it's an event that's going on there.
What?
So
Listen, why do you never give an opinion on the story, and then you just keep throwing the red meat into the fucking lion's cage here? What do you expect me to say? We can't both not give a comment when these are the stories. It's ridiculous. Undocumented People's Day. Why?
Residents Day.
Oh,
They give
fuck.
people. So anyway,
Here we
City of
go.
Toronto, they said that the city is committed to supporting all residents regardless of immigration status. So
Perfect.
they say join us on August 20th, which is tomorrow, for Undocumented Residence Day event and learn about the realities, challenges, and contribution undocumented Torontonians make to our city. So that's happening tomorrow.
Is there a community note? Is there a community note on the tweet?
There was nothing I found out as associated to it. I mean, what could you say about it? They're just, doing what they can to talk about what's going with these individuals that are undocumented. I don't know. I think we should have took the day off work and go there and attend it. Maybe interview a few people.
Send an email to your boss.
Listen,
I'm going to be celebrating tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a very important day. This Undocumented Residence Day.
I don't know about this. I don't know.
If I tear up my passport, can I participate? Am I like one?
Oh, I'm undocumented. I'm 1 degree removed from undocumented. What do you like? What is the like? How are we celebrating? Is there like a parade? Is there some stands? Like, what is there? Is there like?
They can't do a parade because then you're gonna have.
Is there a float?
The Palestinians counter protest.
The Palestinians will, they won't like that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
amazing stuff going on in Toronto. Is Olivia Chow going to be in a bathing suit at least? Like what's the what am I getting out of this?
Okay, that's it, Joey. We're done with the show. It's we're done. What a fantastic wrap up this was. So.
That's it. We're done.
That's it. Fuck. What else can we go on to this week? That's it. We're gonna get cut off any minute now if we continue down this path.
Len, there's 311 people here. I love you guys, man. It's amazing. I see the number going up all the time. I can't believe people come and watch us. It's
you know what? We could talk about one more thing if you really want to.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Well, this will be like more like there's a water main break in Montreal.
I saw that.
We saw this.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this in the past that the infrastructure in Canada in general is aging and it's aging rapidly, and something needs to be done to update it. And typically things aren't updated until they break. That's the way things are done. And just because there's not enough money to go around, and that's just the reality of it. And this water main break was massive in Montreal. It created essentially a small lake over there. And Calgary had one not too long ago. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure exactly what is the status of that. I know that it was the beginning of summertime and they were forcing residents.
It was fixed. I work with some people who are working Calgary, and it was fixed after about 10 days, I think. So
that's good. I thought it was going to be longer, but still 10 days.
Fixed or rerouted, maybe, Len, one or the other. But they got water back in about 10 days.
Yeah, okay, that's good to hear. But that's just underlying the point I'm making here is that the infrastructure is old, and typically this shit breaks in the wintertime through the freeze thaw cycle. But now we're experiencing this stuff happening during the summertime, and that's kind of concerning to me. And as this happens more and more, then that's going to be more money that has to be diverted to this, more people that are impacted, homes flooded, businesses flooded, and that's just the reality of what we're dealing with now. And what do? I don't know. Just I guess buy more Bitcoin but it's
what do you
a sad
do?
Situation.
Bring in 600,000 people and tax the shit out of them, and that ought to fix the whole problem. Raise taxes and add immigrants to the city. That'll fix it.
Yeah. And that's what's going on in Montreal. And you know what? I suspect the next few years you're going to see a lot more of these problems in major cities throughout Canada, especially in the wintertime. And then that creates a problem. Then traffic is built up and you can't get to and from work. Emergency personnel can't get to the emergencies. It creates a fucking big problem. And it's because we just don't have the ability, the necessary resources, talking about money, to fix these problems before they become a bigger problem.
But at least you'll be able to get your Amazon package overnight instead of having to wait till the next day. That's a plus.
Maybe.
You can. If pretty much everything comes overnight now. You have that option on Amazon. Get it delivered right to your door in the middle of the night. Hopefully no one steals it, but at least it'll be there.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're also anticipating there would be no problem from the Amazon order from going from A to B. If it's flooded out because of a water main break, and roads are closed, that the overnight deliveries ain't gonna happen. They got to
No,
use
it ain't.
drones at that point.
That's right.
And we're probably not too long ago getting into that, but
I can't
yeah.
wait. I can't wait. God bless everyone. Thanks for coming. Don't forget, Mark is on with Joe Barbuto on the Rampart Twitter feed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so go check that out. Support Mark, support those guys. They're doing good work. And yeah, till next time, take care of yourselves.
And don't be a cock.